Hey everyone, and welcome to the 6th tutorial in our PyPlot course. Here, and over the next couple of tutorials, we're going to be focusing on different kinds of graphs or charts, and these are going to be some of the more commonly used ones that we might be using to represent data or to kind of examine patterns. So, we'll start with a bar chart here. All we'll do is create and customize a very simple bar chart. For starters, we'll create a separate dataset for this because bar charts are going to be used for categorical data rather than just numerical. We'll work on plotting the dataset on a bar graph or bar chart. The two terms are pretty much interchangeable. And finally, we'll work on customizing that bar graph or bar chart. So let's head on over to the code. Alright, so this is where we left off last time. This was number 5. We worked on multiple plots. We can plot multiple lines on a single graph or create multiple subplots. So to start off with, we're going to create a new cell. Okay, zoom in so you guys can see a little better. By the way, you guys don't have to zoom in if you want. If you don't want, this is more for your easy viewing, let's say. Okay, so we'll start by creating new data. Just a heads up, if the datasets look a bit different, that is because I once again had to reset my kernel, so the data is going to be different there. So we'll start by creating some data. I'm just going to call mine bar chart data. Okay, and I'm going to actually set this to be a dictionary. I find a dictionary just makes a bit more sense because we're dealing with categorical data so that we can use the keys for the categories and then the values we assign as the actual values. So bar charts typically represent counts across a couple of different categories. Okay, that's probably the more common place that we would see bar chart data. So I'm feeling a little uncreative. I'm just going to call my categories 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and I'm just going to assign some random numbers to each one. So we'll start off with maybe like a 5. We do 10 here, and I don't know, maybe like 7 or something. Okay, feel free to enter whatever you'd like. If you want to call these categories something else, that's fine. If you want more or less categories, you want different numbers, that's totally cool. It's up to you. Okay, so we have some data. Now in order to plot it, we're going to use plt.bar this time. So this creates a bar chart. As you can see, it takes in an x and a height, takes in a width. This is going to be the width of the actual bars themselves. 0.8 is pretty thick. It actually auto adjusts depending on how many categories we have. And then we just have some positioning stuff. So we'll basically ignore all of those except for x and height. Height we can think of as just being the y value, by the way. So for this, we're going to get our bar chart data, and we're going to take the keys. Okay, and just bear with me here a sec. We'll do the same thing, so bar chart data, and then we'll just get the values for the y. Okay, and then at the end, we'll do plt.show to actually display it. Okay, so the keys are going to be our categories. So again, this is going to be what's on the x-axis because that's what bar graphs are for. They show us the different categories and then the counts across those categories. So the counts are going to be the y values or these values here. Okay, and then the x values or the categories are going to be these keys. Alright, so let's go ahead and display that. Okay, so pretty cool. A little boring, but that's fine. Our data doesn't really mean anything anyway. You can see our categories named at the bottom. We can see the values at the top, and then we just have the bars that represent the actual numbers. So our first category had 5 members, then 10, then 7, and this would probably be counts of these categories. Okay, so one thing that we might want to do is add the titles and the labels. These are done in exactly the same way. So it's just plt.title, okay, and then we do plt.xlabel and plt.ylabel. Okay, and for each of these, again, we're just going to enter a string. So the title could just be, I don't know, our bar graph. By the way, again, you can call this bar chart if you want. Doesn't really make a difference. Okay, and then we'll just have the category. Okay, and then we'll have the count. Okay, well, we can run that again. So you can see title and then our labels here. Okay, so what about any kind of other customization such as colors or lines or anything like that? Well, we don't necessarily have lines or points. I would say these are bars, so are very slightly different. We saw that we can adjust the width of the bars right in here, so that's fine if you want to do that. The other thing we can do is change the colors of the bars, but it's not like we can necessarily change the styles of the bars like we could with the different lines. So if we want to change the color, what we can actually do is say something like plots is going to be equal to this, and then we can say plt.set p, just like before. We can put in our plots, and then we're going to give, I don't know, maybe a color. We'll do color equal to, I don't know, maybe we'll try red. Okay, R for red, and you can see that changes the bars there. So just like before, we can use any of these different colors that we had in our previous sections, which was up here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. All right. So that is pretty much it for our bar graphs. Again, bar graphs very, very commonly used. It's a great way to represent counts. If the counts are not necessarily related to one another, we'll see in the next one. Pie charts are going to be another way to represent counts, but it's slightly different. This is categorical data typically. We have the labels at the bottom. We can add our title and our axes labels just like before. We can customize the color with set P. Otherwise, it's essentially just graphing our categories on the X and then the numbers on the Y. Okay, so that's it for this one. In the next section, we're going to be covering pie charts, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.